Salutations, industrialists. It's Mark, a producer working on Gilded Destiny and currently with a cold. As promised, I'm happy to share the second part of the discussion from our London studio. If you haven't already watched the first part of our discussion about events yet, be sure to check out our 20-second dev diary on the event system. This dev diary features questions from our community about the game, the Victorian era, and a few random topics. We had a lot of fun recording this part of the video, so we will certainly plan to do one again in the future. Well, without further ado, let's get started.
Alright, so we may actually circle back to events a little bit, but now we actually have some player questions directed towards us. So let's move into that.
Yeah, these
and
are
we actually have players.
Yeah. These are from the Discord.
Yeah, these are from our Discord and also from our community across the internet as well.
Yeah.
So submitted via various channels. So, first question actually is, which events, innovations, or facts from the Victorian era do you find most interesting? Well, I'll go first. I think it's fantastic that the saxophone was created during this time period. I play saxophone and,
Your neighbours are less enthused, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. My neighbors aren't so happy about that invention, but I am, so. Yeah.
Yeah, something I learned during the research for our events was that my home state of Missouri actually remained in the Union during the Civil War, thanks to a regiment that was composed of revolutionaries from the German 48-49 revolutions. That they were able to seize the arsenal before secessionist forces could, and that kept Missouri in the Union.
A really cool thing I found out about, which I didn't know before, and I tell anyone who will be willing to listen, is about Victorian plastics, which I found out about when I was doing research for technology. So just the number of kind of organic plastics that the Victorians invented and how early they invented them is quite surprising. Obviously you've got things like gutta percha, but you've also got plastics from cellulose and plastics from milk protein, long before PVC. And we actually represent a little bit of that in our game as well. It's in the tech. Some of those are in the tech tree. I found that kind of fascinating. Yeah.
Cool.
For me, definitely just how dangerous a Victorian household is. The amount of things that can kill you is incredible.
Yeah.
Anything in particular?
The way they use electricity for one, and also even wallpapers can be poisonous.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Like lead-based or just
Arsenic.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, true.
And I think you were just telling me the other day, speaking to the electricity aspect, they had tablecloths with a wire mesh in there, and you could just stick a lamp in there, and it would turn on.
Yes.
This idea did not catch on so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Although maybe not so different, but maybe it's less dangerous today than just wireless charging. They were thinking ahead of their time.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, steam locomotives, also fantastic.
Yeah.
Advances in medicine.
Steam engines are cool.
Yeah, they are. All right. So, why did we decide to use a globe?
Kind of the primary reason is actually we want to sort of accurately reflect sizes. It's ultimately kind of what it comes down to. It's important when we're talking about if you're invading a country like Russia, for example. If you're using a normal projection, it definitely looks way bigger than it is.
Right.
It gives you a very distorted impression of how big or small things are. One thing that, of course, in school and kind of just looking around on maps, you always know that Europe, in comparison to the rest of how they appear on map, is smaller. But it's actually, it wasn't until that we're kind of putting them on hexes that we start to realize that the difference is much bigger than even we imagined.
Right.
It caused problems.
Yeah, I mean, for example, comparing, if you just simply look at Europe versus North America or the United States, the density in which we have to place cities or other things is so. In Europe, everything's on top of everything else. In the United States, everything can be nice and spread out. So, yeah. This question has been asked many times, but let's reiterate. Will multiplayer be added to the game?
Yes, but this will be something we try to implement after release of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because I think for us, we want to make sure that we have a flushed out game mechanics before we consider sort of adding multiplayers to it. This, however, also means that even now when we are creating the code as well as just design considerations, we do have multiplayers in mind.
Okay. Great. One player asks, can I still have the alpha test before Christmas? How long will it take for the alpha to be released?
No comment.
No comment. We're not doing this.
It will be ready when it's ready. In essence, right now, with the pre-alpha out, we are based on player feedback. So depending on how that goes, we'll end up releasing to the wider alpha community.
Yeah.
It's always going to be it's ready when it's ready. We do not want to release something that's not enjoyable in any way. We want to make sure that kind of feedback is important, so we want to get it out as early as possible. But if it's not fun, no one's gonna give us feedback.
Yeah.
So it's going to be it's ready when it's ready, or soon TM.
Yeah.
Great. So, how many ways? This is another question. How many ways are there to interact with leaders in the game? Can we poach talent from other countries?
Oh, you know what? I'm not entirely sure whether we've fully done that yet.
Well, that was something I had suggested in our
Yeah.
recent event discussion. Is that we need a way to transfer leaders from one country to another.
We definitely have. It is something that the event system is designed to be able to do, but in terms of something that you can do just on your own without outside of the scope of any historical events, no. It was an idea we had a while back, but unfortunately the number of considerations it required for it meant that it wasn't very practical. Maybe one day we'll revisit it, but it's certainly not on the cards for now.
Yeah. All right. Well, another question. Speaking of cards, another member of our community asks, what are your favorite board or card games?
Well, personally, I like a lot of leader games. So, for example, I've played a lot of Oath. I recently got Arcs. I'm very excited to get more into that. But yeah, the kind of asymmetric kind of board game, that really is my kind of deal.
Right.
Yeah. D&D as general TTRPGs. I'm also a big fan of the Firefly board game. If anyone's ever played that, it's a cracking game.
We need to play that together.
Yeah,
I haven't played it myself
it's a
yet,
very
but
good
huge
game.
Firefly fan. So
The only one that I really play frequently is actually Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah.
yeah, have we played it together?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
it's
must
something.
have. Yeah, many years ago. But yeah.
I mean, grad school we definitely did that.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So yeah, that would actually be one of my favorite games as well. Let's see. Growing up, I really enjoyed the game Chutes and Ladders. That was fun. But I haven't played that in many years, but I remember it fondly. Settlers of Catan is also fun.
It's
Classic.
true, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, also Exploding Kittens. Yeah. So, yeah. Let's see. All right. So next question is, will there be a way to back the game and get access to the alpha now that the Kickstarter has finished?
So our intention has always been we will allow others or people who have not backed us on Kickstarter to join alpha. That we will do. We just will likely do that at the same time when alpha is fully released.
Okay, great.
Working on it.
Yeah, exactly. What has been the biggest challenge you've faced so far? And what feature or mechanic are you the most excited to show off in the pre-alpha?
Yeah, I can answer that one. The biggest challenge, we're still facing it. We're coming up with ideas for how to fix it. It's the economy. The economy is very complex. And obviously it's very important. It needs to work. It needs to work in a way that people expect. We are making progress, but it is tricky. And also, it is something that can be computationally heavy. There's a lot of processing required for it. If there's too much processing, it breaks the game. I mean, some of those of you who kept track with our dev diaries, the original plan was to have trade happen in real space. And that broke the game. It was too process intensive. So we've been working on other things since then, but obviously, with the number of goods, the number of countries, it's a major challenge. And to be able to reflect kind of things like the supply and demand and prices rising and falling and freight costs and all that sort of thing, there's a lot of things going on. And also things like tariffs, embargoes need to have an effect. Wars need to have an effect. Shortages that caused by famine and such need to have an effect both on the availability of goods and the price of goods. And so all of these kind of considerations need to be taken into account in order to have a simulation of a closed economic system. Likewise, money shouldn't be disappearing. It should always be going somewhere. There shouldn't be any kind of money holes in the game. And when we find those, we need to plug them. So yeah, that's another big concern.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a big challenge.
Right. Okay, so next question. Anything else?
Oh, I mean, wasn't it kind of like for everyone?
That's
the most
yeah.
exciting
So
for.
go for it.
And if you've got a most challenging or most exciting?
Yeah, something I'm excited for is that just establishing logistics networks. I've always kind of been obsessed with that. I'm excited to be able to specialize in a certain good and become the dominant producer, and so that everyone has to come to me if they want it, otherwise they can't compete. That kind of thing is something I'm really looking forward to.
For me, the most exciting part is definitely warfare. I think it's something where we depart from other similar games. It's decisively more tactical. As you can see from our previous dev diaries, kind of having a province like California, for example, you have varied terrains. You have different paths that you can take. I think if we do it well, it can be meaningfully different from what's out there today.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. The fact that essentially our provinces have multiple terrain types.
Yep.
That's something you don't really see in a lot of grand strategy games right now. So it adds a lot of tactics to combat.
Because obviously a lot of the sort of the focus is of course on cities in terms of capturing cities and all that sort of thing. But there are also buildings that exist, like rural production buildings. Destroying those can have quite a big effect on countries as well. So sometimes you might need to choose where you're going to position your soldiers in terms of what you're going to try and defend, what you're going to try and attack, within a province even. So yeah, there's quite a lot of tactical depth available there.
Just by having the terrains, it also means that in certain provinces there are choke points.
Yeah.
That makes defenses either harder or easier.
Yeah, you can have choke points within a province, not just as a province.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
I'd say probably the thing I'm most excited for is the something we're working on at the moment, which again relates to the economy, which is the ability to use the national stockpile as a way of manipulating the global market, of trying to stockpile goods and then release them, both to create artificial shortages and artificial surplus. The other thing is that we currently are still working on this, but it is sort of partly done, is a banking system as well. So your countries will have their national bank and can loan to other countries and make money off the interest. Both of these are kind of quite exciting in terms of just, it gives you a different way to play. It allows you to play as an economic power without necessarily needing to rely on military if you don't want to play that way.
Not saying we'll do this, but I think one interesting thing that we can think about is if we can allow some players to just play as the bank.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah. I still want to make a game that's basically that. But yeah.
Yeah.
But and there is one that exists, but it's
Because also the stockpile, by creating artificial demand, is another way to subsidize your factories and things like that.
Sure it is, yeah. I mean, essentially you can... And countries did this historically. Countries, I think it was coffee at one point, there was a surplus of coffee, so they bought it all up, just so that they could keep the price high. I mean, I believe that's something that the British government did in the not too recent past as well with butter, the whole thing of butter stockpiles or something. But yeah, it's a valid economic tactic, and it's something that governments use to enable their businesses to survive in certain economic conditions. So yeah, it's And again, the idea is to enable our game to simulate that sort of thing.
Great. Something as well that I'm a bit excited to show off in the alpha and pre-alpha we worked on a while ago was the soundtrack. We've of course been teasing it a little bit, but yeah, now it's officially in the game. Thanks to our great composer that we worked with, John Skoog. So,
just a thing I'd probably add. Obviously, these are the things we want and are working on, but there's an extent to which we might find that there are intractable problems and we need to scale back some of these plans. They're what we're hoping to do, basically, and they're what we've started doing and made progress on, but we can't ever guarantee any of them yet. As we say in all of our dev diaries, it's work in progress.
Yeah.
You can splice that in whenever you want, really. It's just I feel it might be worth saying.
Yeah. Well, there'll be the nice work in progress thing down on the bottom of the dev diary anyway. So, but yeah. Just a couple more questions that we have. So, do capitalists take into account things like the price and cost of goods, potential profit, availability of workers, and other factors that would actually be important for the operating of a business?
The plan is yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Ultimately, yes. We're currently working on this as well. But so far we have managed to get them to take some of these things into account already. But yeah, they're also, the plan is for them to take into account things like whether other capitalists have also built a bunch of businesses of the same type recently, so that they won't all spam the same thing. And when I say the plan is, I mean, it's what we're currently doing. It's ultimately, actually, that sort of thing is generally not too hard to do. But yeah, no hard promises, but it's certainly the plan. Yeah.
Right. So, we're down to the final two questions, kind of fun ones. Would you be open to doing community challenges when the game is released? And an example would be giving the community a week to find out the fastest way to form Germany, or maybe, as we mentioned before, finding the 12 pentagons.
I mean, yeah, it sounds cool. I'd be down for doing something like that.
Yeah, seems pretty fun.
Yeah. I've always been a fan of Haiti, given its very difficult starting position, trying to create something that is try and get out from under France's debt. That kind of thing is a nice little challenge.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sounds good. Or starting as like a small state anywhere around the world, forming a country, unifying a country,
or finding your economic niche.
I mean, the poster's idea of fastest to unify Germany is pretty good too. Yeah.
Fastest to do the Meiji Restoration in Japan.
Yeah. Yeah. Fastest to unify Italy, or anything like that.
Fastest world conquest.
There you go.
Do the one religion challenge. Convert to everyone.
God. Sounds good. Yeah. All right, and so down to the last question, which sounds like a great idea. Will you guys do monthly mod spotlights?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal. If we build it, they will come. So.
The game of dreams.
Yeah.
You Americans.
I mean, one way that I think we definitely want to do this is also something we've been talking about for quite a while ourselves as well, which is we would like to host competitions for modders to encourage people to find new ways of building things using the tool sets that we have, given our sort of heavy emphasis on the editor. That's kind of the thing we want to encourage people to do.
Yeah, so anything we can do to bring more people to modding this, we'll be considering it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm always interested to know what people are playing, what they enjoy, especially as well if there are features that they particularly love from certain games. And also, as I remember we posted a while back certain polls on what sort of game would you want to see next after, any if you imagined any time, any setting, what would be the thing you would find most exciting? Always keen to hear what sort of things people like. But yeah.
Well, that's all of our questions for the day. As always, if you have not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so and wishlist us on Steam. So that's all for now. Have a gilded day.
Ta-ra.
Hey.
Yeah.